If you get shared physical custody, do you still have to pay child support? Hi, I'm Alicia Kinchlow, the owner of Kinchlow Law, a family law practice based in the Philadelphia area. One of the questions I get sometimes surround a change in the physical custody of a child or children. Now, this is the part of the video where I'm going to remind you that you need to speak with an attorney licensed in your state about the facts specific to your case, and these videos are for informational purposes only. But because we want to talk a little bit about shared physical custody and child support, I'm going to first talk a little bit about the way that child support is calculated. And in a different video, I talk a little bit more about the different types of physical custody. That's sole, primary, shared, partial, and then supervised physical custody. All right. Now, the courts will generally try to make sure that families in one area of the state or even in the same area get treated the same way. And because of this, we have guidelines. And the guidelines look at families that earn around the same amount of money and with the same number of children and determine that this is the appropriate amount, according to them, that of support that it takes to raise those children on a monthly basis. And I'm going to link to the guidelines in the show notes so you can take a look at them. But once the court, the domestic relations section, has determined the net income of party one and net income of party two, they will also provide an adjustment based on the based on the custody amount of the non-custodial parent. Now, generally, the non-custodial parent in a situation where one party has primary and one has partial is that the person who has partial is a non-custodial parent. However, it can be a little different when there's shared physical custody. So when determining the guidelines, the court takes into consideration that the person who has lesser custody generally has 40%, at least 40% of custody time with the children. And if they have less than that, then the court can actually deviate, which actually means go away from what the guidelines say, and actually award a higher amount of support. For example, if there are no overnights occurring with the child, the court may say that's a reason for there to be a higher support because the guideline presupposes that there is a certain amount of time that parent is spending with that child. All right. Now, the other way is that if there's 41% or more of time, there starts to be a downward decrease of the child support obligation. Now, when you get to 50-50, it can change a little bit. So where one party may have had primary custody and the other person had partial physical custody, and maybe the primary person was actually the higher earning party, there could have still been a child support obligation. But when these two parties get on the same playing field when it comes to share custody, that obligation can actually switch. So now you have a situation where the person who initially was receiving who's actually primary and was receiving child support is now paying child support because the person who was paying them before was actually the lesser earning parent. And so that can actually be a switch. Now the thing is, because remember we said in the beginning of the video that there is a downward adjustment based on the amount of custody, the amount is going to be adjusted downward. So sometimes it can result in an obligation, especially where the parties' incomes are fairly similar to each other, of a almost negligible amount of support. So it's important to understand the way that that works and how it can actually affect the amount of support. But just because you now have 50-50 custody does not mean that there is no support or no support obligation. Other things that can kind of cause a support obligation to continue to exist is going to be the presence of tuition, the presence of daycare expenses, possibly by one party and not the other. So those are some other things the court can take into consideration and will cause there to still be a child support obligation. All right, so I hope this video shared a little bit more information about how shared physical custody can affect a child support obligation and how it can still cause one to exist. And of note as well is that even if you are the person who is the primary parent, there are situations where primary parents are paying child support to parents who have partial physical custody. And I think what I'll do is I'll talk about an interesting case where that came to be and how that might be something that you could see in your case. I think I'll drop that video tomorrow. So make sure you hit subscribe, hit the little notification button so that you don't miss that video or any of the other videos that we are dropping every day of 2021 on custody, divorce, and support. All right, until next time, take care.